Logic, Symbols, and Statements, Part 1. In logic, the word "and" is shown with an upside-down V. "And" means intersection or two events happening. For example, I go to the brew house and I order a hamburger. The second word is "or." "Or" is shown with a V. If I said, I go to the brew house or I have a hamburger, it does mean that I could have a hamburger at the brew house, but it also means that I could be at the brew house eating something else, or I could be somewhere else having a hamburger. Or just means one of the two events is happening, or maybe both of them. Not. If I say I am not at the brew house, it means I'm not there at the brew house, I'm somewhere else. And not is shown with a tilde. Here's the first example. List the states that have an A in the name and are on the West Coast. So we need to think of all the states on the West Coast, because that's the fewer amount of states to look at. If we think about the states on the West Coast, we have Alaska, Washington, Oregon, and California. Out of those 4 states, Oregon does not have an A in it. So the states that have an A in the name and are on the West Coast are Alaska, California, and Washington. Example 2. List the West Coast states that have an A in the name or border Canada. What this is to be interpreted as is think of all those states that we had earlier in example 1, Alaska, California, and Washington, or think of all the ones that border Canada. So there's some overlap in those two ideas. Altogether, the answer to this is Alaska, because it does border Canada and it is a West Coast state that has an A. California, because it's a West Coast state that has an A. Washington, it's a West Coast state that has an A and it happens to border Canada. Idaho, because it borders Canada. Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire, and Maine, because all of those are West Coast states with an A in them, or they border Canada. Example 3, list the primary colors not blue. Primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. But it says list the primary colors not blue. I would only list red and yellow as my answer.